My name is Coach Tim Soudan, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber. Sidearm whip. Scores. Now in front. Fidel scores. Hands off for Rabel. Switches hands and scores.
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson.
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam. Together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. We're here with Coach Tim Soudan, former pro lacrosse player in the NLL and MLL, 2014 MLL Coach of the Year, and current head coach of the Chrome Lacrosse Club in the PLL. Coach Soudan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're looking forward to kind of getting a deep dive into your entire career. But first off, we want to kind of just start out in where you grew up in Fairport, New York, right outside Rochester. When did you first get involved in the game of lacrosse?
Yeah, it was 6th grade. I moved from the village of Fairport to actually the house that I live in right now. I bought it from my parents. And there was a big lacrosse game going on in my side yard, and I never had seen the sport before. So there was a lot of kids playing in the neighborhood that were my age and, up through varsity. So there was like a wide range of guys, and they all played together. And we came around the corner in the moving truck, and there was a big lacrosse game going on in our side yard because we have a pretty big side yard. And then we pulled in, and they all scattered. They all became friends of mine, and that's how I was kind of introduced to the game.
That's great. And you obviously stuck with it and ended up playing at UMass, where you were an All-American for the Minutemen with 84 goals during your career, which is the program's career record for middies. Describe kind of your decision to go to UMass, what maybe went into that, and how did your game progress while you were there?
Yeah, the recruiting process was far different back then. I think I made a decision to go there after visiting Virginia, Hobart, and UMass. I wasn't really into the whole thing, but Guy Van Arsdale is a Geneva guy, and he was the assistant coach at UMass. And I went up there, and the senior at the time that took me to dinner was a guy by the name of Jerry Byrne, who is now the Harvard head coach.
Yep.
And dropped me off with a guy by the name of Sal Acasio, which most people will recognize that guy's name.
Yep, for sure.
Jeff Salinger was his roommate. They were sophomores at the time, and dropped us off at the dorm and did what college recruits did back then. And I remember leaving the next day and telling my parents I'm going to UMass. And I had been on one other overnight and didn't get the same feeling, but loved it. Loved Coach Garber, was amazing. Loved Coach Van Arsdale, and the boys couldn't have been more gracious. And it was a great situation, and loved it, and made a decision. And I stepped out on the field at UMass in the fall, and there was like 200 guys trying out. That's an exaggeration, but I mean, there was probably 3 fields worth of guys trying out, and I was looking around. I'm like, how am I ever going to make this team? So it was motivating, to say the least. But by day 2, they had cut that in half, and then they started narrowing it down from there. But it makes it a little easier when you're on scholarship and that kind of thing. But met some of my best friends at UMass, and had an opportunity to play with those guys and against those guys after in both the NLL and what actually started as the MILL. I played in Boston, and my whole goal was to try to make that U.S. national team, and kind of, career-wise, took a back seat to exactly what I wanted to try to accomplish in lacrosse, and always find myself leaving on a Friday to go to a tournament so I could stay sharp in the summer. And but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and got to play for the Boston Blazers with a handful of UMass guys there, and then ended up making the world team and I guess we would have made it in the summer of '93, and then that was in Manchester, England in '94 when we beat Australia in the finals. And that was kind of where things took off for me as far as playing on that team, and then having opportunities both indoor and outdoor to play. I wish I played in the MLL when I was younger. I don't think I played until I was like 33 years old. Wow. I think it was like 33, 34, 35 years old in that league, which, it was still a great opportunity, but it was, if it was 6 years before then, I would have been way more dominant. But it was a lot of fun. But all that experience along the way has really made it easier for me to understand what's really important on coaching these professional guys and what they have to go through, like juggling not only the lacrosse piece of it and being in the best shape that they can, but we got a lot of guys with families now and young children and work and all these different things that thin out exactly what they can prioritize on a week-to-week basis. So that insight has been very important to my success as a coach and my ability to communicate with the guys and have an understanding of what's important.
No, that's great that you were able to take that, in your coaching career. I want to talk about, too, you mentioned how important it was for you to play on that Team USA team. You won World Championships in both the 94 and 98 seasons for the World Championships with Team USA. What was it like, suiting up for Team USA and, kind of reaching the pinnacle of, a lacrosse player's career at that point?
It was a goal of mine. I tried out in 1989 when I was summer between my junior and senior year in college at UMass, and I went. I was not prepared at the tryout to play on turf when it was raining. I didn't have turf shoes the first weekend. Anyway, when I didn't make that team and I saw how close I came to making that team, I was like, I made it a goal. And so achieving that goal, number one, was really cool. But I think the more important part is when you put on that USA jersey and they give you all the gear and you're sitting there, the first national anthem that's played when you're standing on the sideline is probably the most emotional part of the entire thing. It's like you're filled with pride and, to play for your country and, everything that went into the time you had to invest in your craft to be able to make that team. Just make the tryouts is tough enough.
Yeah.
But no, I was very blessed to be in a spot to make those teams, and the friendships that I've gotten along the way, and including from that team, has been amazing.
Not only did you play for Team USA, but you talked a little bit about your time in the NLL and the MILL a little bit as well. You started off with that original Blazer squad and moved on to Rochester and had a pretty awesome career spanning over a decade, 11 season with the Nighthawks. And you had immediate success once you hit Rochester. Not going to lie, I was just watching the 95 championship between you and the Wings. I found an awesome screen grab, but I'll have to send it to you. But talk a little bit about your time in the MILL and NLL and your awesome career with the Nighthawks.
It was really cool. I mean, you think about professional lacrosse, and I think my first year playing in the major indoor lacrosse league, I think I made $1,000. Honestly, I think it was $125, 8 games. Mm-hmm. So, it was really, for the love of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the time I ended up in Rochester, I was probably making more like $500 a game, and the games had expanded. So. Mm-hmm. It was really rewarding. By the time I finished, I was making $1,000 a game both indoor and outdoor.
Okay.
And I was the secretary for the Players Association, so I was making another handful of money there. And the first year that the Rochester Rattlers came to town in the MLL, I dropped everything and went back to school to be a phys ed teacher.
Okay.
So during those 3 years of, actually I played for 4 years because I played in the showcase year, I was able to get a degree and start teaching, and I was like a stockbroker and in sales and did all this stuff that I just didn't love, and I was able to, lacrosse gave me back that opportunity to go when I had a young son back to college and find a career that I love doing every single day. So it's always a give and take, right? Like early career, kind of just gave up on that. I just wanted to play lacrosse, and whatever hire me and allow me to still play lacrosse, I did. But at the end, I was full-time lacrosse player, and I was going to school full-time, and it was a perfect fit. So it ended up working out perfect for me in the long run. And then after I finished my career, I played indoor until I was 37 and outdoor until I was 35. And I just couldn't manage doing both in school, especially with, I think my son was like 2.5 years old by the time I decided to retire. And, I think I figured out 42 weekends a year I was either busy or out. And I was like, okay, enough's enough. And it was perfect. It gave me back that, something that almost was kind of taken away from me because of my attitude towards, like, I am going to do whatever I can to play professional lacrosse and for the U.S. national team. And then all of a sudden it's come full circle, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And, you spent some time as the assistant GM with the Nighthawks in 2008, and then eventually the Rattlers came back to Rochester, and you took over as head coach from B.J. O'Hara in 2011. You guys had some growing years, your first couple years as coach of the Rattlers, but you eventually would win 2014 Coach of the Year in the MLL and take the team to back-to-back MLL Championships in 2014 and 2015. Unfortunately losing in both, but how were you able to take that team and kind of turn it around, make them a championship caliber team? And how did you see kind of your own coaching style develop over those years?
Well, it's funny when I interviewed against BJ for that Rattlers job, and I'm not a very good interviewer because I'll tell you exactly what happened. I was with the owner and the GM, and I was like, can I just ask who else are you guys looking at for this job? Because, I just felt like that was a good question. And they were like, B.J. O'Hara. I was like, why aren't you hiring B.J. O'Hara? Because I was a big fan. And the last time he was in Rochester, he won a championship in the NL or in the MLL. So they were like, well, we were thinking about changing the name. And if we change the name, we want to rebrand everything and have a different new head coach. So they ended up going back to the Rattlers, which I played for, in the first few years. And things didn't go well for him in the beginning. And the coach or the owner was a fiery guy. And he called me after they lost their 5th and 6th game back to back. Like it was like a Friday, Saturday night. So I get this phone call at Saturday night at 10:30 at night. I was like, hey, Rob, how are you? He's like, do you want to still coach? I was like, I don't know if it's possible at this point. I got to check with my wife. But so, yeah, it was pretty cool. And I think that week, like everything that I thought of, like how do I prepare myself? How are these guys going to respect me? How can I pull from my playing career to best serve these guys? Like, I don't need to win another game in my life. Like, I want to provide these guys the best opportunity to win. Like, I don't look at wins and losses as a coach from a super competitive spot. I just want to create a really good opportunity for these guys to be successful. And it's not. It's just unselfish. I'm not in it for me, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel now. It's like, the game comes at these guys so fast that they have to make decisions. And my plain and simple thing that I say to these guys is like, just don't make the same, learn from your mistakes and don't make the same mistakes over and over again, or else you're not going to be playing. And that's the number one thing that these guys understand is you take the playing time away. Mm-hmm. And, but the other thing that became very clear when I was doing some soul searching in those early few days I was the coach before I, sat down and met with these guys, was, well, the culture has to be really good. These guys invested so much time away from, their homes during the weekends in the summer that they have to really enjoy coming and being a part of what we do. Mm-hmm. So right out of the gate, that was number one thing is like, okay, and one of the things I learned from coming in halfway in the season is how important and how empowered guys feel when you make them part of what the game planning is going to be. Like what should we run? What have you been running? What do you think would be better? Mm-hmm. And we sat down at a table with the offensive guys, and Coach Monty was the coach that I brought with me. He sat down with the defensive guys, and we just hashed out what it was going to look like. And empowering guys to help make decisions on game planning, honestly, personnel. Like, hey, what do you think of this guy? Like, I got an offer for this guy. Is he a good locker room guy? Does he grind it out on the field? Does he go 100% when he steps on the field? Mm-hmm. Because I was kind of out of the loop in watching these guys and understanding who they were. Like, at this point, I've been watching a lot more college lacrosse than I have in the past, so I didn't really know these guys as well. So we really, put a lot of stock into what guys felt about other guys. Superstars, hey, I got a trade opportunity for this guy. Coach, you don't want that guy. Or coach, that guy would fit perfect. All right. And so that's how we build culture. I mean, when we were in Rochester, we used to have cookouts here, make sure we get guys in early, and we'd have a cookout and, can jam and wiffle ball in the side yard and just try to do as many cool little things. And, Galloway and White and some of the older guys along the way. When we're on the road, we make sure everybody eats together. Everybody gets up and goes to breakfast together. Mm-hmm. And that's not as much me as it was the guys that were on the team, but it was more of a like, hey, how are we going to make sure the culture's good? And they always included everybody. So it was much different than other teams when you would go to dinner after a game or whatever, everybody went together, and that's how I foresee putting this group of guys together. And, I'm really excited about getting together and nervous at the same time of what's going on in the world. And, but looking forward to getting after it.
Yeah, and you talked a bit about a few of those rats you have back on this Chrome squad after you took that job in the PLL. I mean, you talked about Galloway a little bit, Jordan MacIntosh, Rannigan, Joel White, Jordy Wolf, and Donny Moss, who you picked up just recently in the entry draft. So talk a little bit more about that excitement to kind of be reunited with those guys and start something new with new players. And is there kind of some unfinished business with those guys, kind of getting back to it?
Yeah, there's some unfinished business for sure. When you lose back-to-back championships, sure. One in the last 36 seconds, one kind of got away with from us, 3 minutes left. But it's tough. But we have such a good relationship that over the last few years, I wasn't coaching the 2 years prior to last year as well, or the last 2 years. And those guys always call me, Coach, talk to me about this or whatever. And we stay in touch, or they just, hit me with a text here and there, and all kind of on their own time. And but it's been it's been cool. I think the relationships that you can form with guys that are adults are far different than what I'm used to with high school guys. And, they've responded, and, having a foundation of this team that is built around a culture that we had, I think is only going to speed up the ability to create really good culture with everybody. And, we start to try to build that just by having some conversations with guys that I don't know as well. And, things are going well. I'm really looking forward to training camp down there with all those guys.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I do want to talk about a little bit, too, this entry draft. We talked about you added veteran Donny Moss, who you have, some experience with. You also decided to take veteran defender Jesse Bernhardt with your second pick. Kind of what went into your thought process with this draft? Did you have your eyes on both those guys from the start, or did you ever consider, drafting anybody else at number 2? What was kind of your thought process with this entry draft?
So the major thought process as we looked at where our opportunities were going to be to pick up guys and bring them to training camp. What is this is just the first piece of how we put this team back together. Mm-hmm. After losing a Chris Sabia in the expansion draft, we had a huge hole there. I mean, if you looked at where our success was last year, it was at the offensive end of the field. Mm-hmm. So we heavily protected our offensive end of the field with with Joe White and Will Haas and Manley and Galloway. And but at the end of the day, when after they took Sabia, we have some older defensemen that we need to get younger there. And we need to put together a really solid defensive group in order to be successful in this league. And these are our opportunities. We've got the entry draft. There's going to be the college draft, which is light defensively. Mm-hmm. So even if we wanted to grab a Rob Pennell and then use our 4th pick overall to pick up one of the best defenders in that, the best defender was rumored to be going to play football. Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, we have to address defense only in this draft. Mm-hmm. And it actually worked out the way we thought it would. There was a couple other names that we really, were looking at on that. We thought we could parlay that second pick overall with flopping and getting better defensively as well, and try to maybe get 3 picks in the draft, and didn't work out that way. But when the dust settled, those were 2 guys that we were really interested in for sure. And Donny Moss is probably one of the most underrated D-middies that have played over the last 5-6 years, and he's a big, strong kid that can run. And he played long stick when he was in college, and there's been times over the years that we'd have to give him a long stick. Played D-midi, play close. He's a Swiss Army knife, and the more guys you can have like that are really good in one aspect and can do other things, it makes it really, really a lot better, especially if people get hurt or stuff like that during a game. So, but yeah, Jesse Bernhardt was our number 1 guy we wanted, and then we figured we could make some trades along the way to maybe get Moss and one other guy, and it just didn't work out that way. So, but Moss is a guy that we wanted because he had expressed interest in coming over, and wouldn't want to see him on any other team but ours.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we actually talked to Bryce Wasserman, who was on the Rattlers last year, with Donny Moss, and he mentioned Moss as a guy who, was one of the few people that had, a wealth of pro experience on that Rattlers team last season, and just how much of an impact he made, not just from the X's and O's standpoint, but also from a leadership standpoint too. So, I think it was a no-brainer for you guys to pick him up, and we're looking forward to him and Bernhardt suiting up for you guys this season. But that wraps up our main questions, Coach. We're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll go into our 5 and 5 segment.
Sounds great.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. Today I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Anchor. We've been using Anchor for the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast, and once it's published, they send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. They also connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast today, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code LACROSSE today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. All right, so welcome back. Now it's time for our 5 and 5 segment. I'll start off with the lacrosse-related questions. So we'll ask you five lacrosse-related questions, and then we'll ask you 5 off-the-field questions as well. But the first one for the lacrosse-related is, what are some pregame superstitions or routines that you have?
Oh, I try to get rid of all those. But I have my favorite shirt. I try to wear shorts all the time because I hate being hot. I really was superstitious through high school, through college, and like wearing a specific shirt. Ned Karate puts on this shirt that is absolutely tattered that he's been wearing. You should see it. It's hilarious. I'm assuming he's still wearing it, but the last time I saw him, he was throwing on this yellow shirt over his, and it's torn to pieces. It's crazy. But I try not to get superstitious because if I forget something, I hate that thought process. So, sure. I've had some superstitions along the way, but I think more importantly is just being ultra prepared and making sure everybody understands what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm kind of moving away from that as a coach, but as a player, it was pretty strong. Gotcha. Number 2, what has been your favorite venue to play or coach lacrosse at? I think one of the coolest places that I ever played was in the championship in Bury, England. The championship game was on like a soccer pitch, right? Oh, wow. A cool little venue and grass, and that was really, really cool. Some of the old building in Philadelphia was awesome. Mm-hmm. Loved playing there. Playing in Buffalo was great. The War Memorial here in Rochester, mm-hmm. Especially in the early days, there was like 7,000 seats in there, and they put extra chairs all the way around, so you couldn't you couldn't walk around. Wow. The place. So I think they got 600 or 800 more seats in there, and got the the number up to like 75 or 7,600, and they were right on top of you. So that was pretty cool. Playing out in Denver at that huge stadium, and played in Boston at the football stadiums. It's weird when you're in there and there's 8,000 people there, and it looks like no one's in the building. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so there's been some really cool places over the years. For sure. And then following up with that, what is the tour stop in this PLL tour that you're looking forward to most? Yeah, there's some places on there that I've never been. Right, I'm looking forward to going to Portland. I think that's probably the number one spot that I really haven't been to. So I'm looking forward to that. The one in Minneapolis, Minneapolis. Yep. Yeah, I know Coach Monty's really looking forward to that one. So yeah, it should be exciting. I've been to some of the spots, but I'm looking forward to some of these other ones. For sure. And then going off of that, who is a coach that you kind of leaned on as a mentor during your career? Well, a lot of my mentality comes from my college coach, right? Coach Dick Garber was an unbelievable human being as far as, he was a run and gun type of guy. I remember sitting down with him and, saying, Coach, sorry, man, I had a really bad day today. He was like, Timmy, it can't be 100% every single day. He just had a really good way about him. Like, he was kind. He remembered everybody, basically, and really loved that. One of the guys that I really lean on during my professional coaching career is my assistant coach, Coach Monty. Like, he coached me in the early days with Guy Van, was my first Rattlers coach, and Jock is one of my best friends from high school. We played 3 sports together all the way through high school. He went to Hobart. I went to UMass. He went off and coached college at Butler, Brown, Ohio State. Like, he was in it for 10 years. Decided to come back and become a phys ed teacher, as I did, and we kind of so I lean on him a lot. My high school lacrosse coach is probably the most influential guy that I've had in my lacrosse life. Still kind of a mentor to me. Randy Garrett, he's an old Ithaca guy, played football and lacrosse there, and he's still around the Fairport team that I coach now, which is really cool. He's a great person and knows a lot about the game, and it's really exciting stuff to have him around still.
That's great. And then my final question with the lacrosse related is, which coach are you looking most forward to matching up against this summer?
I've met some new guys. Obviously, there's been guys that I played like indoor against in the beginning, like Batesy, and I lost complete touch with Andy Tower. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think we match up to them on game week 2. It's our first game. But then Nat, him and I have got a pretty good relationship, and Ben Rubio I coached against for a long time, and Stags I've coached against, and so I'm looking forward to the whole process, actually. Andy Towers and I got along really well back when we were younger, so I'm looking forward to running into him for the first time in a while. We talk on the phone, but it's not the same. So sure.
That's great to kind of get you guys back together again, this time coaching against each other. That will be pretty awesome to see.
For sure.
Awesome. All right, so I'll move on to the off the field questions. Number 1, what is your favorite spot to go when you're in Rochester?
I have a couple tree stands that I love sitting in over at my house. And then I have a hunting camp of my own that's about 30 minutes south, like by Geneseo. Okay. And I got a couple spots down there. So I really like to hunt and fish. But as far as around here, I'm kind of a homebody. I kind of like being at home, and there's kind of like being at the school, coaching the high school kids and that kind of stuff. But, there's a couple tree stands that when the sun rises, it's magical.
They're calling your name. That's awesome. Kind of going off that homebody question a little bit. I think with a lot of people quarantined right now, this will be a good one to ask. But what's a book on your bookshelf, or if you're not a big reader, kind of podcast that you'd recommend to one of your players or a former teammate?
Yeah, so I have been like tuning into some of the podcasts with Tara and so I've been watching a lot of film, actually. Like trying to get an idea of what some of these younger guys that I've never coached, what their abilities are, and then be able to have conversations with those guys. And we're putting together some Zoom calls for later today with the offensive guys, and hey, what worked well last year? What should we go back to that we used to use? What new thought processes? For me, it's like you can't ask a wing dodger to be a downhill dodger, downhill dodger to be a wing dodger. So you have to have the ability to, when a guy's fresh and can be a dodger, put them in the right spot and do it quickly and efficiently in the shot clock scenario. So we're gonna start some weekly calls here before we get to training camp and start to understand what guys feel they do best and try to make sure that we have stuff in that's appropriate for them.
Speaking of game film, like I was watching that MILL 95 game. Dallas Eliak has like a full roster of old games. If you ever want to go back and watch the heyday of that league, there's always a good opportunity to do that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But kind of going off of that a little bit, maybe switching from lacrosse, what's your favorite sport to watch that's not lacrosse?
Probably college football.
Okay.
Yeah, I always fancied myself a football guy. And then when I realized that no one was recruiting me to play football, only lacrosse. But yeah, I love college football, especially, getting towards the end of it. I would say that not a big baseball guy.
Understandable.
Did play in high school. I can't watch baseball. I can nap to golf. I like golf because I can nap to that.
That's awesome. And then kind of last up here, what's your favorite meal, and do you prefer to dine out, take out, or cook at home?
I like the summer the best because we grill a lot. I'm a venison guy or a steak guy. My wife is more of a chicken person, but we usually have a freezer full of venison, so we've got a bunch of different ways we prepare that with rice or potatoes or just a garden salad. Perfect. But I prefer the summer because I prefer cooking then. In the winter, I like to eat Chinese and take out and
good stuff. Yeah,
grilled cheese sandwiches and stuff like that. But.
Awesome. And last question here, since like I said, we're quarantined. Any TV shows or favorite TV shows you could suggest to the audience while we're inside?
I'll tell you, I've watched some movies on Netflix, but I watched LA's Finest from start to finish. Really enjoyed that show. Been kind of binge watching Friends again.
Okay.
And it's rare to find one I haven't seen, but over the last week I've seen one or two episodes that I've never seen before. Sure. So love that kind of stuff. I'm a more action style guy. I watch a lot of NCIS, that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Awesome, yeah, no, that's some good recommendations for however long we're going to be, quarantined right now. But yeah, we appreciate it. Coach, one final question that I like to ask all our coaches and players is, what is some advice that you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally or one day coach professionally?
I said, do what you love. I had back in the day, I had a goal in my side yard. I still have the one my father bought for me. It doesn't have the same net on it, of course, but the hours I spent either on the chimney or shooting the lacrosse ball, I definitely believe it set me apart. I mean, athletically, I was gifted. I think that came along because I just loved to play. I actually played 4 sports through high school. I played baseball in the summer, but I wrestled and I played football. But I think being involved in a lot of, different sports helps. I know it's harder this day and age not to, kind of set your focus on one sport. But at the end of the day, athletically, if you can control your body and be strong, that's important. Like I said, I was gifted athletically, and I did spend, considerable amount of time in the weight room, but shooting and always having a stick in my hand was huge, and being kind of a student of the game came later for me. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot through college, but I played for the Bryan Lacrosse Club for, several years after moving to Boston after college, and how insightful some of those guys that had been playing club for 5-6 years were on tempo of the game and, you know, possession time and different things like that. I learned an awful lot during that period of time. And the indoor game for Americans is really important. It's a whole different skill set, honestly. It's passing, catching in tight quarters. And, you know, I played 15 years, and I think each year that I played, I became a better outdoor lacrosse player.
Mm-hmm.
And things come at you quick, and you're able to make quicker decisions, and you see the field differently. And, you know, I learned a lot during that. So any opportunity to kind of play some box lacrosse, you know, with real box lacrosse, not like play field lacrosse in a box.
Yeah,
but just, you know, be all in. I think that's our motto here in Fairport for our high school team this year, and hopefully we'll be able to play our season. We have almost everybody back after losing in the state championship last year, and you know, we're really looking forward to suiting up if we can, and then you know, really looking forward to training camp and getting together with the Chrome guys. And I'm excited to connect with those guys at more of a personal level for sure.
No, that's great, and I think that's some good advice for any young lacrosse player, you know, looking to one day, you know, reach the pros. So we appreciate it, Coach Soudan, for coming on. You know, we want to wish you the best of luck with the Chrome and everything, and thank you.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, guys.
Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.